The wind coming off the Malian Gulf carries salt and heat, stinging the eyes as armored men lock shields in a space so narrow that the mountains seem to lean inward. Bronze scrapes bronze. Leather creaks. If you were standing here now, heart pounding, sweat pooling under your helmet, you probably wouldn't survive, not because of weakness, but because this place allows no mistakes. Thermopylae is not a battlefield in the open sense. It is a choke point, a gate where geography itself chooses sides. The historical event unfolding is the Persian invasion of Greece in 480 BCE, when Xerxes' massive army presses south and collides with a deliberately small Greek force under King Leonidas. Modern scholarship emphasizes that this was never meant to be a decisive victory, but a strategic delay, buying time for Greek alliances to mobilize. The pass mattered because it reduced numbers to irrelevance. Here, the Spartan-led hoplite Phalanx could function at peak efficiency, turning terrain into a weapon. The Phalanx works because it is collective, not heroic. Shields overlap, spears project forward in a hedge of iron, and each man's survival depends on the discipline of the one beside him. Its strength lies in cohesion and frontal solidity. Its weakness is exposure on the flanks and rear weaknesses. The pass itself temporarily erases. Soldiers must maintain spacing, absorb shock, and resist the instinct to pursue, skills drilled into them through relentless repetition. A lesser-known detail often missed is that Spartans were not alone. Thespians, Thebans, and other Greeks stood in line, though academic debate continues over how uniformly trained these allies were compared to Spartan professionals. Compared to Persian infantry, lighter, more flexible, but less protected. The Greek formation is brutally simple. Historians still argue whether Thermopylae proves the superiority of heavy infantry or merely the power of terrain, but here at the narrow gate, both answers coexist. The line tightens as the sun climbs, and the pass becomes a corridor of controlled violence, every step forward measured, every retreat deliberate. This is where the wall of bronze truly forms, not as a metaphor, but as a mechanical system. Each hoplite's shield, the aspis, covers not only his own torso, but the man to his left, creating an interlocking surface that advances like a single organism. At Thermopylae, this formation is not theoretical, it is tested under constant pressure. The officially recognized sequence of events describes repeated Persian assaults across several days, with waves of infantry sent forward to break the Greek line. The Phalanx functions by denying penetration. Spears thrust from the second and third ranks, while the front line absorbs impact. Rotation of tired men, a detail often overshadowed by legend, is crucial. Spartans train to step back without breaking formation, a skill that requires trust. Bordering on instinct, strength lies in density and morale. Weakness lies in rigidity. The formation performs best on flat, narrow ground and struggles if forced to maneuver quickly or fight individually. Soldiers must master balance under weight, synchronized movement, and suppression of fear. Academic debate persists over how much flexibility existed within Spartan ranks compared to other Greek city-states, with some scholars suggesting Thermopylae shows a more adaptive phalanx than later classical models. A strange side fact emerges from archaeological finds. Many spearheads recovered from similar sites show uneven wear, suggesting frequent short thrusts rather than wide, dramatic swings. Compared to Persian troops, archers, and lightly armored spearmen relying on volume and mobility, the Greek phalanx is less versatile but far more lethal head-on. Modern analysts often compare this system to a mobile barricade, and at Thermopylae, the barricade holds because every man understands that stepping out of line means collapsing the whole. By the second day, confidence hardens into routine, and routine becomes its own kind of weapon. Persian commanders commit their elite, including the immortals, expecting quality to succeed where numbers failed. This escalation is a documented turning point, frequently highlighted in Herodotus and revisited in modern military analysis. The clash is not simply cultural, but structural to systems colliding under extreme constraints. The immortals fight as flexible infantry, equipped with lighter armor, wicker shields, and a mix of spears and missile support in open terrain. This versatility matters. In the pass, it becomes a liability. The phalanx functions by shortening the fight to a brutal front-facing contest, where armor thickness, shield overlap, and spear reach dominate. Greek soldiers need exceptional endurance, the ability to hold formation under sustained pressure, and the discipline to ignore individual targets in favor of collective rhythm. The strength of the Greek system here is psychological as much as physical. Repeated Persian withdrawals reinforce the idea that the line is unbreakable. Its weakness, however, is strategic blindness. Success in the past risks masking vulnerability elsewhere. Scholars debate whether Persian commanders underestimated Greek discipline or were constrained by Xerxes' desire for a symbolic victory, rather than tactical adaptation. A lesser-known detail comes from logistical studies. Persian troops reportedly struggled with footing and spacing in the narrow corridor, disrupting their usual command flow. Compared to other Greek formations, such as the more flexible Athenian hoplites, Spartans emphasize uniformity over improvisation. Academic debate continues over whether this rigidity is a strength or a flaw, but at Thermopylae, against elite opponents, the phalanx proves devastating so long as the fight remains exactly where it is. As the days drag on, fatigue becomes an invisible enemy, settling into shoulders and thighs long before morale cracks. This is where Spartan training reveals its true purpose. The adage is not about turning boys into fearless warriors, but about conditioning them to function when exhaustion erodes judgment. At Thermopylae, this training manifests in small, almost mundane acts: steady breathing under armor, controlled spear thrusts, and the refusal to break rank even when muscles tremble. Historically, this phase reflects the sustained holding action before the final breach, a period often glossed over in favor of dramatic moments. The phalanx requires constant micro-adjustments, shield angles corrected, gaps closed, pressure redistributed. Its strength lies in predictability. Every man knows what the one beside him will do. Its weakness is cumulative fatigue. Once timing falters, the formation's integrity degrades rapidly. The skills demanded are both physical and mental. Soldiers must maintain peripheral awareness, suppress panic, and accept limited visibility through helmet slits. A lesser-known side fact from experimental archaeology shows that hoplite armor, while heavy, distributes weight efficiently, reducing long-term strain if worn correctly, something only trained professionals could exploit. Academic debate often contrasts Spartan endurance with that of other Greek forces, questioning whether their superiority was real or simply better documented. Compared to Persian soldiers, who rely more on command signals and ranged harassment, Greek hoplites depend on internalized rhythm. Modern historians argue whether this makes the phalanx resilient or brittle. Thermopylae suggests both interpretations are valid. The formation endures far longer than expected, yet it has no graceful failure mode. When it breaks suddenly. The atmosphere shifts when knowledge becomes a weapon. News of the mountain path later associated with the name Phalanx reaches Persian command, marking the most consequential development of the battle. This is the officially recognized turning point, where strategy replaces attrition. The pass that empowered the phalanx now becomes a trap, its protective geometry inverted. Encirclement exposes the phalanx's central weakness. It is built to face forward. When threatened from multiple directions, cohesion becomes harder to maintain, and shielding overlaps no longer align. Leonidas' decision to dismiss much of the allied force reflects an understanding shared by modern military historians. The formation cannot function properly once flanked. Soldiers now require not just discipline, but acceptance of inevitability, a psychological demand few armies could meet. A lesser-known fact debated in academic circles is whether the mountain path was truly secret or simply underguarded, suggesting structural Greek intelligence failures rather than individual betrayal. Compared to more flexible formations, such as light infantry capable of dispersal, the hoplite phalanx has no adaptive response to encirclement beyond contraction and delay. The strengths remain symbolic and tactical, holding ground, inflicting disproportionate losses, and buying time. The weaknesses are now fatal. Soldiers must fight with reduced depth, broken spacing, and collapsing morale. Modern comparisons often liken this moment to later heavy infantry disasters, where rigidity meets maneuver. Thermopylae demonstrates that formations are situational tools, not universal solutions. The Phalanx excels within its design envelope and fails decisively outside it. Morning breaks on the final day with the sense that the geometry of the battlefield has changed. Even if the stones underfoot look the same, the Phalanx still forms, but it is thinner now, shorter, compressed by inevitability. This last stand is an officially recognized episode of deliberate sacrifice, where Leonidas and the remaining Greeks choose to hold ground rather than withdraw. From a functional standpoint, the formation is no longer optimized for victory, only for delay. The Phalanx still works in fragments. Shields lock, spears thrust, and the front-facing discipline remains deadly. But without depth, losses cannot be rotated out, and without secure flanks, cohesion becomes fragile. Strength persists in morale and mutual reliance. Weakness shows in exposure and exhaustion. Soldiers now require exceptional composure, fighting with broken ranks while maintaining enough order to deny a rapid collapse. A lesser-known side fact appears in scholarly debate over weapon use. Evidence suggests some hoplites fought with shortened spears or secondary weapons once shafts broke, further reducing formation efficiency. Academic discussion also questions casualty figures, noting that later Greek writers may have emphasized heroism over tactical detail. Compared to other ancient last stands, Thermopylae stands out not for chaos, but for how long structure survives under impossible conditions. The battle ends not with sudden rout, but erosion. The Phalanx does not shatter instantly, it wears away, man by man, until it no longer exists as a system. This moment profoundly influences later Greek military thinking, reinforcing both the power and limits of heavy infantry. Thermopylae becomes less a lesson in invincibility and more a case study in situational dominance, where formation, terrain, and purpose align, briefly, against the weight of an empire. Thermopylae endures because it exposes the Phalanx in its purest form, stripped of later myth and examined under maximum stress. As a military system, the hoplite Phalanx proves extraordinarily effective when conditions favor it: narrow terrain, disciplined troops, unified command, and a clear strategic goal. Its ability to neutralize numerical superiority is not legendary exaggeration, but a demonstrable outcome of armor, shield design, and collective drill working in harmony. Yet the battle also clarifies the formation's limitations. The Phalanx is not adaptable in the modern sense. It cannot respond dynamically to encirclement, broken terrain, or prolonged attrition without support. Its effectiveness depends on preparation and context, not improvisation. Soldiers must possess not only physical strength but emotional restraint, spatial awareness, and absolute trust in their comrades' skills cultivated over years, not weeks. Compared to Persian forces, the Phalanx is tactically superior in frontal combat, but strategically vulnerable without intelligence and mobility. Academic debate continues over whether Thermopylae represents the height of hoplite warfare, or a transitional moment before more flexible Greek tactics emerged. What remains clear is that the stand at the pass was not irrational bravery, but calculated resistance. In the end, Thermopylae teaches that formations are tools, not ideals. When used correctly, the Phalanx can hold back an empire. When circumstances change, no amount of courage can compensate. That real is more than heroism is. Why the battle still matters.